I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome everybody. This first part of the agenda is open for citizen comments. So if we have any citizens in the audience that would like to step to the podium, you may comment on anything on our agenda. If you have a comment on something other than an agenda item, you will have to wait until the end of the meeting. Do we have any citizen comments? Okay, we're going to jump into celebrations. I'm going to turn it over to Adam.
All right, well, I'll start with the not so fun stuff, but I mean, they are celebrations of sorts. So going through board goal number 4, which is our school safety goal, just some things that have happened. The story is on the website. It's our, I guess the one story I would point to on the brief off of as far as what's posted on the website. But Williamston was the recipient of the Michigan State Police School Resource Officer Grant. It was a competitive grant process that actually took quite a few months to work through. But we are grateful that we'll be receiving that additional funding. In total, $81,900, which will be spent over the next 3 years in support of adding school resource officers into our schools. Also want to compliment the City of Williamston and the Williamston Police Department, who have been very good to work with and very supportive of that, and have looked for creative solutions to provide staff to support the hours within the memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreement that was approved by both the city and the district. So that program officially started on the 1st of February, and we'll continue to fine-tune that moving forward. As the board was made aware of our previous meeting, we were also the recipient of a very generous anonymous donation that will allow for our detection and emotional support dog Gemini and her handler to begin working at the district on Monday. Monday and Tuesday will be an orientation day of sorts. There's an itinerary built out. We'll have executives from the nonprofit in, as well as having Serenity, the handler, and Gemini, the canine, get oriented to the buildings and introduce them to students and staff, and kind of begin that transition process as they work their way into our routine and rhythm during the school day. More to follow on that. I know there's a lot of interest and excitement about that. Some media inquiries already today. So all that will run its course, but the key thing is, and the important piece is that we have a walking metal detector that will be available in our schools amongst some other capabilities, and another emotional support outlet for students and staff. In keeping with board goal 4, all the buses now that run regular routes, so those will be the routes that are bringing kids to and from school on a normal day, are now equipped with external cameras. And what that will allow us to do is when if a car were to run the stop bar on the bus, the camera will automatically take a photo of the vehicle's license plate, which will allow the transportation department then to submit that to the proper jurisdiction, depending on where that violation occurs, and allow the law enforcement to do their thing. So just another reminder, when the bus has a stop bar out, obviously need to stop. It's because there's kids crossing the street to board the vehicle, but in instances now where that doesn't happen, the bus will take that photo of the license plate. And lastly, on this note, last week we had a special agent from the FBI in that presented 3 assemblies, 2 to the high school and 1 to the middle school, on sextortion. We'll be meeting with the admin team later this week to discuss next steps or any follow-up that we want to do. I know the middle school did do a follow-up survey with their students afterwards, and the overwhelming majority of students responded that the assembly was impactful and made them think about some of the decisions they might make down the road with how they use their phone. So,
Can I ask a question about that? Is that something that we'll do yearly, or is this like a one-time thing?
Well, I think
that
that'll,
presentation, or
yeah,
it
so
depends?
I think that's to be determined. I mean, the FBI was generous to provide some proactive support to us. I think if they're interested in continuing that, we would definitely, be interested in them having them come back. So it could be something that continues. We'll just have to see what their availability looks like. That was one of the reasons we wanted to incorporate the middle school students, just so that we had a broader reach, and hopefully that sticks with them for some time. All right, so moving out of the safety stuff to some more fun things. A number of accomplishments or ongoing items with the arts. I guess I'll start off with I believe it was called Let It Snow. I should have written down the exact name, but the series of second grade choir concerts at the elementary campus. It's just really been awesome to see those performance opportunities be facilitated for our elementary school students. So Meg Carr and then Angie Herrick with the artwork, the student artwork that was on display for attendees. And the best part about it is the day after their first concert, which again, the snow theme, I kind of felt like I was being singled out because there was a lot of stuff about snow, they're not going to have school the next day. And I was sitting there like, is this directed at me? But ironically, the next day, there was our first and only so far snow day of the year. So it kind of worked out for them. But both concerts by both groups of second grade students were great. The kids were clearly well rehearsed and came dressed for the part, and just the whole thing was awesome. Keeping with the arts theme, the Michigan State University Federal Credit Union, MSU-FCU, art competition is ongoing. It's an annual event where student artists from across the area showcase some of their best pieces. The exhibition is ongoing at the lobby at the MSU-FCU headquarters, but you can also vote online. There was a link in the update last Friday to that, and we'll continue to send that out in future updates. So you can vote for supporting Williamston student artist, and there's also a school spirit award. So it's good stuff, and a great way to support those students who are artistically inclined. And there's just some really impressive stuff on there. And then 2 performing arts notes. Both choir and band have had their district solo and ensemble festivals. In the case of choir, they have qualified for states in 9 different events, and for band, which was just held this past weekend, 16 of their 23 events earned a Division I rating. So outstanding performances by both programs from our high school. And the jazz band will be performing a series of competition events tomorrow. So a lot going on in the fine arts world right now. Those are the celebrations for this evening, pending your questions.
For the art competition, is there a certain number of, can you vote for only like one, or can you vote for multiple? Can you vote for all of them? Do you know how that works?
Well, that's a good question.
I got to vote for more than one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did have to do the "Are you a bot" thing on the,
Yeah.
take all the traffic light pictures or whatever it was. But I guess you can.
Okay.
So.
So vote early, vote often?
You're supposed
Is that what you're
Well,
supposed to do?
I'm not officially going to say that, but we definitely want to support our students.
Yes.
Any other questions for Adam? Okay, moving on to our educational update. I'm going to turn it over to our school nurse.
Well, thank you for having me. Dr. Spina asked me to come and share some updates about what I've been doing since I joined the district in November. So I'm just really thankful for this opportunity to share with you and just speak a little bit more about what we've been doing. Can you? Oh,
No,
okay.
I don't want my head to be in the way of your presentation.
Oh,
so just
okay.
move a little.
Okay. So initially, when I joined in November, a large part of my focus was on our COVID-19 response, following county guidelines, answering student and family questions, providing support to staff. And then from there, I was able to help partner with the Ingham County Health Department. We hosted vaccination events in December and again in February. And then this fall, we partnered with the Central Pharmacy in Williamston and provided staff vaccination events where they could receive flu and COVID boosters. We actually had 3 different events during the school day where staff could come to their building and receive that if they chose to. And then a huge part of my role is addressing student health conditions and health needs for school. So it's really partnering with families, with their medical providers to develop a health plan for school, and working with our staff to be ready to respond and support those students with health needs. So a big part of that was creating kind of a uniform document that our staff could become familiar with, that really outlined how to respond to a student health emergency at school. I thought it was important for them to become familiar with the same format, so they weren't taking time and moments sorting through a document trying to find the information they need. So we were able to really unify that into, if you see this, do this, and really individualize that to our students with different health conditions. And then we went a step further, and I was able to work with our technology department to actually link those plans in PowerSchool. So the teachers for those students are not only able to see their medical diagnosis, but they can click on a link that will take them to that student-specific plan so they know how to respond and support that student if health needs arise during the school day. And then providing training, so meeting with teachers and the staff working with those students so that they know how to recognize an emergency for that particular student and how to respond safely for them at school. Okay, and then medication at school. So another one of my early focuses was just reevaluating our processes and procedures around giving medications to students at school. As you're aware, we kind of evaluated the current board policy, compared that with MDE guidelines and best practices, and our state of Michigan requirements, and just made sure that we were in line and doing that practice safely at school. We also worked to create uniform documents for our staff to record when students receive medication at school, or if they're receiving a medical procedure at school. We worked together on that. And then this fall, I gave an in-depth training to our staff who actually administer medications, just about safe practices and procedures, and then how to effectively give different types of medications. So we actually did some hands-on practice with inhalers and nebulizers, so that we can make sure that those students that need medicine at school are getting it safely and accurately. Okay, and then our My Heart Safe certification. So this was something that was in place in Williamston before I joined the district. For those of you who might not be familiar with it, it was developed to really prepare schools for a cardiac emergency. It's a designation that's awarded every 2 years. Some of the criteria are having AEDs accessible throughout the district, a certain percentage of staff need to be CPR certified, and then you're required to run cardiac response drills every school year as well. So we kind of took that foundation and just went a little bit deeper. So we reevaluated our district cardiac response protocol, made some things a little bit more clear and up to date for how we would respond to a cardiac emergency. And then went a step further too, and I worked with building administrators to really develop building-specific, school-specific procedures that really met the needs of each of those different school settings. We also provided a copy of that specific procedure, which is with the AED in each of those buildings. So in an emergency, when staff grab that AED, that outline procedure and what to do and roles and responsibilities are outlined there. And then we ran cardiac response drills. So we simulated real-life events in each school setting and had staff respond. We were fortunate enough to include our school resource officer in some of those, so that feedback from a first responder was really valuable too, and we were able to grow and learn a lot from those processes too. Okay, and then I've received my CPR instructor certification, so I've continued with training our staff to become CPR certified and ready to respond to those cardiac emergencies. So we're just continuing with that training and education for staff. I also implemented an online inventory for our AEDs. So this helps log our monthly checks of the equipment. It also will show if there are any recalls on the equipment that we have within the district, and it keeps track of all of our expiration dates. So in an emergency, when we go to grab that machine, we know it's functioning, we know it's safe to use for someone. And then we've improved our AED accessibility. Our athletic director and I have worked, we've placed AEDs in our baseball, soccer, tennis complex, at the track and football stadium, and we've added them to our softball, football practice area. And then we were also awarded a grant for an additional AED that we'll be receiving through the Kimberly and Guillory Foundation.
How would you like us to ask you questions? Do you want us to wait until the end?
Do you have questions now? Yeah, you can go
I-
ahead. Yeah, go.
So if one of our machines, our AEDs, if we get an alert that it's been recalled, do they replace that for us, or do we just send it off and they fix it, or we have to buy a new one?
So it depends on if it's like a manufacturer defect, or if there's something that manufacturer is specifically covering, or if sometimes certain parts age out, and then once that's non-functional anymore, it would be our responsibility to replace.
So then that leads me, how often do we need to replace them? Like if we've never used them, how often do we have to like recycle them out?
So it really depends on the model. It depends on the manufacturer and if they continue to make batteries and replacement parts for those things. Our pads on the AEDs need to be replaced about every 2 to 4 years. Batteries are up to 5 years, but it just depends, again, on the specific model and the needs for that machine.
So
Yeah.
this might be a question more for Sarah. Do we have like a rotation of how, like, okay, year 1 we have to replace these 3, year 2 we have to replace these
Right.
3, or could this be a scenario where we had to replace everyone in the district at the same time? I do not know that yet. I should have asked that sooner, but it just came to my head.
Several comes through each year, so I don't know the schedule, but I know.
But we didn't get them all at one time, they kind of.
Not
No,
five,
they for sure didn't come
year.
all at once. We had started a long time ago. I think Mike Freeman had coordinated with NISA and a couple other first responder agencies for like the first ones we ever had. And then from there, we've just started to gradually add additional devices based on funding availability, grants. I think so Amanda noted this additional device we're adding. So those things have just kind of come on their own, I guess I would say, over the last 6 to 8 years. So I think mostly by luck. I think for the most part they're kind of staggered out. I don't know that it was set up that way by design, but I think we're okay as far as not having that bulk scenario occur, to the best of my knowledge.
And it's not like mine costs itself, it's a lot smaller.
Yeah.
It's not like buses.
I was thinking that same thing.
They go like our buses.
Good point.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry,
No,
I
that's
have a
okay.
question too.
Absolutely.
So when you're doing trainings with staff, are you like having a person act like they're having the symptoms of a cardiac episode, or use a dummy, or?
Yeah, so we brought in a CPR dummy, and we'd set up a scenario. We had one in this room for the middle school, actually. So the administrator got on our walkie, they made that announcement to staff, and then staff responded to the location, and then just showed their skills and responded as they would in a true emergency. Then afterward, we had a debrief. We talked about, what worked, what could we improve on, what things we could do differently, and we did that. Yeah. Thanks. Mm-hmm.
So are all of our staff trained, I
That
mean,
was-
they sign up?
Yeah,
like,
that
who's-
was my next question. Yeah, go ahead.
So is it like, I'm gonna do CPR training, volunteers who wanna get certified, or do we, like, how does that work, and how many of our staff are certified? If you know that, I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm gathering a total district-wide number, but we have cardiac response teams in each building of at least 6 staff members who are CPR certified and are trained to respond and participate in those drills. Beyond that, we have all of our PE teachers are CPR certified, and Mr. Paulson can probably speak to this too, but all of our head coaches are CPR certified, and one of the heart safe requirements is that at least 50% of our assistant coaches are also CPR certified. So we've talked a lot, and that's one of my goals here later on too, but we've talked a lot about expanding that, so including our custodial staff, our lunch staff, and just really kind of growing that certification.
And that's good for 3 years?
2 years.
2 years, okay.
So is that an expectation then when new coaches are hired or assistant coaches are hired that they come in with that certification, or that we are providing that certification?
Paige, can you speak to that?
My thing is until next one. I'm presentation on this, no. It is part of the MHSA requirement, and so any head coach, so varsity, JV, or freshman, and then we do offer it. We offer fall, winter, spring, and anybody who's coaching, whether it be volunteer or anything at that time, is able to partake in the class and become certified, and we do cover that through enrichment.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So then naloxone or Narcan, as you're all aware, we work to develop a district policy for stock naloxone within the district. We were able to secure Narcan through MDHHS that we've stocked in all of our school buildings, and then I provided staff training to a team in each building about how to recognize an opioid overdose and then how to respond to that. So again, we have that stored in a central location in each building with signage for that, so staff know how to locate it and where it is in the building. Okay, and then one of my most favorite things to do is I've been able to make connections with students in the classroom. So I've done some lessons about illness prevention, so hand washing, covering your cough and sneeze. We've done a lot of that. I also helped in providing the health lessons to our 4th and 5th graders last spring, and we'll do that again this spring. And then I've worked with teachers and families when students have a new medical diagnosis or a new procedure at school that's going to be affecting kind of their day-to-day routine. We've gone into the classroom and answered student questions, really so that parents and that child don't feel alone in navigating that at school, or a teacher left trying to answer questions that they aren't familiar with either. So, okay, and then we kind of touched on one of these, but just my goals going forward. I have a lot of things that I am really excited about and would like to work on in the next year. But one is developing medical emergency response teams. So kind of building on that cardiac response team mentality, these would be core groups of staff members who are ready to respond to any medical emergency. So a seizure, an asthma attack, an allergic reaction, and really have that group ready to respond to any type of emergency in the building. So that's in progress. And then we kind of talked a little bit again just about expanding that CPR training, extending that out to our staff. We have, I guess Nancy, I didn't answer your question earlier, but part of the Heart Safe is to have at least 10% of your staff trained. We do have that, but I would really like to grow that number and exceed that. Do you have any other questions for me?
I just want to say on a personal note that one of my children recently had to have medical care administered, and Nurse Galitas called. She answered all of my questions. She was very calm. I know that she probably had a million and two other, either phone calls to make or other things to do, but she, again, spent not a lot of time, but a significant amount of time. I mean, 4 minutes is probably a lot of time for someone so busy as her, and she just, again, answered my questions, but also communicated to my child's teacher of signs and symptoms to look for my child for the rest of the day, and I think that that is so important, to have that communication, that teachable moment for my child's teacher to look out for. And again, I communicated this to you. I thank you, and I know that I'm not the only one that she does this for. I know that she does this with every single parent that she comes in contact with, and I know that that made my child feel safe for the rest of the day, and it certainly makes me as a parent know that my children feel safe at school too. So thank you so much for all that you do, and
thank you.
that you take really great care of all the kids throughout the district. So thank you so much. It's invaluable to have, I know we've said this before, this is the first time in district history that we've had a nurse on staff, and I think that it's so important that we have this. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And just thank you all again for the time and just recognizing that health is such an important piece to education. So I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, just a couple notes to wrap up. So the first thing we did when we received the 31O categorical from the state was to put out a posting for a district nurse. It was actually like the first thing we had actually used any of those funds for. And it was an interesting onboarding experience, right? Because like I knew we needed a school nurse, but like I didn't know exactly like how that looked. And so Amanda was a standout in the interview process, and we knew she would do a great job, but like I wasn't able to articulate a lot of like useful guidance. And so one of the things that I really have appreciated was that she was able to come in and assess the situation, showed a ton of initiative and leadership, and wasn't able to go out. And I think the board's seen a lot of those things that she's done. I mean, you're actually going to look at several of them tonight in policy. And I think the policy committee's actually seen even more of that work in terms of the forms and some of the underlying operational documents that support board's policy. She didn't talk about it, but Amanda helped teach the Stop the Bleed training with NISA back when we had our safety stand down day back in the fall. I think she was at a training today on that too, right? So, I mean, just a lot of those things that she didn't mention, but on a day-to-day basis have really been impactful. And I don't know what we did before this, to be honest. It's just made that much of a difference. And I guess just one closing thought. I know the board gets this, but when you think about, I guess I just want to highlight the amount of time and resources that we're spending on student and staff safety. So, when you think about the stuff I usually debrief the board on, I don't know if there's ever a meeting where we haven't gone over some new initiative or some new feature that we're implementing to enhance student and staff safety. And just another presentation this evening, and you'll get another one next month. About how we continue to focus on that. So, if you saw that WILX article about the SRO grant that went out, I think one of the quotes I had in there was, "This is where I'm spending the majority of my time." I don't know, in a utopia, that's really where I should be spending the most of my time, but it's just the reality that is our first and largest priority, and it is where we spend a lot of our time, thinking about. So anyway, I'll stop at that, but I do want to also commend Amanda for the invaluable contributions that she's brought to the district in just 14 months, so made a huge difference.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Superintendent's report.
Yeah, just a few things, because I know we got a couple other presentations this evening. So on the 7th of March was the next regular board meeting. We'll have Heather Lewis here, again, focused on student and staff safety, in this case more in a mental health context. But she'll be presenting on her role as the district mental health specialist and health resource advocate. On the 14th of March, there is a Finance and Facilities Committee meeting that'll be in here that evening. And then one, I guess, non-safety or facilities note, we are kicking off the second semester now of the after-school intervention program. So this is part of the stimulus funding to help students recoup any lost learning. And the buildings have done a nice job setting that up in the first semester. They're rolling out the second iteration of that this week. So looking forward to providing those students some additional intervention support after school. That is it for me. Any other questions?
Do you have any other questions for Adam? Okay, next, Board of Policy.
Yeah, we met on the 26th. As Adam mentioned, we covered quite a few additional health programs. You'll find those in your packet. We spent the majority of our time going through the sex education packet. We're lucky enough to have Christina Holmes from Eaton County RESA in, and she spent a ton of time with us going through all of the different rules and requirements and definitions and terms that we have to follow around that. But we've got put together what I think is a pretty good next step as far as gathering together a committee and moving forward on that. Most of the other items that we went through were combining redundant policies, but you'll see all the details in your packet.
Great, thank you. And they're up for discussion too. Okay, any questions about that? I mean, we'll get into more of that because they're on for discussion, but next, presentation on esports. So I'm going to turn it over to Teresa, Billy, and Paige. Or just Paige?
Well, Teresa's going to sit down because it was kind of awkward to just stand up here and not say anything, and we didn't really plan out each slide and kind of go back and forth, so we figured, yes, she is very much a part of it, but to spare her the awkwardness of just standing next to me, I'm going to let her sit down. By her own volition. I didn't force her to sit down, just in case. I didn't demand that she doesn't come up here. It was a mutual decision. All right, esports. I am here tonight because, well, I'm dangerously close to my quota for the year for board meetings, but this is actually something that I think is really beneficial to a group of students that we're not providing opportunities to. We just had a meeting. When was the meeting, Teresa? Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, last Wednesday? Yes.
31st.
Wednesday. And we had roughly 20 students there, and I believe at least 18 of them hadn't done any sports for us. I mean, there are some involved in clubs and band and drama, but as far as the sports side of it, which is a competitive sport, it's a new group that we're reaching. First off, I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Spina for helping facilitate the initiative. It's been very helpful to Dr. Delp, Teresa, and myself, just getting things rolling and helping us figure out where we can find the things that we need. Dr. Delp came to us and kind of presented and kind of got the ball rolling and kind of almost, I wouldn't say forced our hand, but made sure that we were on top of it and made something happen in a quick amount of time. I think I want to say he came early part of January with this, and we're presenting on it, and we start next week in the preseason. So it was a quick turnaround, and Dr. Delp certainly helped push us. James Doyne in the IT department, they have been invaluable in the guidance they have given. James is quite passionate about it and has been helpful setting things up, and the whole IT department setting up the esports hub and just getting everything that we needed for this. And then Teresa, Billy, basically everything you see and all the information, the meetings, the coordinating with the schools, and just figuring out how to start this from scratch, she has done. I mean, she has been on top of this and is the person besides tech is the reason why that we have this up and going. So I want to certainly thank her for the time spent on this. Esports, it's a competitive online gaming that includes team-based and individual competitions, critical thinking, situational awareness, communication in some games, problem solving, analysis, and reflection. A lot of this information from these slides come from the esports leagues, as you can call them. There's a main one in Michigan, although there's multiple. The main one in Michigan is Play Versus, and that's who we'll be affiliated with. But again, a lot of this stuff comes from their research and the league and the information that they provide. This is from the fall season. If you can read those names, congratulations. I cannot make them all out, but I know they're fairly small. But yeah, we want to give a representation of how many schools around Michigan are involved in this. It is quite a few. Obviously, you can see spread in different areas. But if you kind of look at our little sector there, we're one of the very few in the middle of Michigan there that are have this up and running. So I think that's a great look for Williamston. And the amount of support that we have in talking to the other schools that we have coordinated with, how that gets us going, is we already have more available and more support than they've had and been up and running. And I believe one of those teams is also a state champion, if I'm not mistaken, in Novi, who was envious of what we had and haven't even started. So I think we're in a good spot. We're looking at a lot, just like other sports, right? Building character, self-discipline, self-esteem, sport-specific teamwork. It's a co-ed, all-inclusive sport. It has its place in our STEAM initiative, and just becoming a part of a community and with people who are passionate about similar things. I think that's what, when we look at our extracurriculars, I think that's what our goal is, and this certainly checks those boxes. Taken from their research, socialization, communication, leadership, mental health, and sportsmanship, just things that they see, again, the population that we serve, and the population, that eGave serves, and just an outlet for kids that may not get those things, right? Socialization in different sports because they don't have that opportunity. And this is, again, with 18 kids not being involved in any of the sports that we currently offer, this is certainly a chance to develop those skills that you see on the board. After high school, just kind of career paths, things that the benefit that we have, if you can kind of see there, just multiple different avenues, and as we know, the tech world is not getting any smaller, and so it's a good initiative for us to start building that and giving kids a different outlet. It's college. Colleges have opportunities, scholarships. Colleges are really pushing this right now. Obviously, careers in STEM, and game development, those kind of things obviously go hand in hand. What's the season look like? Preseason, which we kind of are in right now, but we're using our preseason to get up and running. But the end of January to today, the 6th, and then regular season starts next week. That would be competitions on certain games have certain days, and that's what the regular season will consist of. Playoffs, April 10th to April 19th, and then they have a on-site championship at Western Michigan. So regular season is competed. Obviously, you're not traveling. We have our esports hubs where we'll do all of our regular season competitions. Right now, we are prepared and set up in our esports hub to offer Splatoon 3, Super Smash Brothers, and Mario Kart 8. We do have 4 computers that were purchased for the 2 games that you see, Rocket League and League of Legends. Those obviously take a little bit longer to get to us. A Switch obviously is in stock and on there, so we have 4 of those. And computers and monitors, we'll have those up and running, but we're waiting on these the computer gaming systems to be able to do that. So if in time and if there's interest this season, we will offer those 2 games, but again, it's dependent on when those computers arrive and the interest in those games by the students. This is what we have purchased. This is kind of what we have included and what we've been doing for the last couple weeks, getting this up and running. Gaming system and memory cards, controllers, internet connection cords, desktop computers, again, haven't arrived but are on their way and purchased, monitors, keyboards, mice, cables, and pads. The total cost of our startup was $8,068. The other thing that's included in this, but not in the price, was our fee for the league. You can pay unlimited, meaning you can have as many kids playing as many games, and they give you the codes for those games so kids can not only play them here, but they can download them on their own systems and have them available for practice, or if need be, in the rare case, having an off-site match, not necessarily here at the school. That's $1,500 for this season, and the 2 seasons going forward. We have received a discount for 3 seasons, and so that price is not $15,000 a season or $1,500 a season, but it will be significantly less. I think it's $2,500 for the next 3 seasons. And with our interest that we have from this meeting and the age levels, we believe that we will be around those numbers each season, sorry. Expenses, reoccurring, just consistent with other sports. You have coaching, league fees, and then expanding and updating equipment. Pretty similar to every other sport that we offer. Offsetting costs, the lucky part is for us is that there is a lot of potential for grants. The conversation right now is what do we do? What grants do we apply for? There's a lot of stipulations, a lot of them are based upon certain populations or meeting certain criteria. So we're really looking at the ones that we are best suited to receive, and then a lot of those aren't up for the deadlines aren't until late March, and so the award dates are after that. So it is something that it's a continual research. But the Department of Education, STEM STEAM organizations, and then esports organizations all have stuff available. Again, a lot of the deadlines are not until late March and then to be awarded after a different date. But we are diligently looking. We do have the information from our meeting of the kids that we have, looking at different factors to see if we qualify for some of the obscure population grants to offset some of the costs, to keep up expanding and updating our equipment and to make it more feasible year in and year out. Finishing thoughts. This is a pilot. This is a club for the first year. The goal is to make it a varsity sport. It is something that we have enough interest in. It is something that impacts enough students year to year, and it's a sport that is growing. It is a sport that has beyond high school opportunities, and it is something that not only at the state, in the esports level, but the state level, the MHSA, that they talked about that they have to seriously start looking at and providing, or at least partnering to have a competitive championship for the state. I mean, it's growing too fast and it's too competitive. So that is our goal. After we see what the spring looks like and how we can further the progress that we've made. We would like to, once the season's over, knowing that we have to build it for next year, we'll be running camps for 7th and 8th grade so they can start to see what it looks like in building the programs. We have a room dedicated, so we have a lot of potential for growth, and I think that was a really important investment by the administration to really see where this can take us. And to finish, I'm sure there's a lot of questions. I want everybody to be aware that we probably have more the people who are running it. I mean, we have literally started from the ground, from ground base about maybe a month ago. And we are figuring out, not as we go per se, but with the help and guidance, and also trying to figure out the kids involved. We are very day-to-day with a plan going forward, but we're certainly going to be very adaptable in really trying to figure out how this looks at Williamston.
I guess I have a question in reference, would this then qualify under the athletic fee that they would pay?
That would be, if it is a
sports?
varsity sport that we would offer, then yes, it would be part of our registration fee, the $200.
Mm-hmm.
If they already play a sport, then obviously it'd be included, but it would be separate. And obviously that looking at maybe going to some of the costs.
Okay, thanks.
How many kids do we have that are interested right now?
We had 20 go to the meeting, and I don't know what has changed as far as up or down, but I think we're probably similar.
Yeah, I would say this week we're going to see some ebb and flow with the numbers. So just, you know, as I've had conversations with kids while in class, I've recruited almost an entire team, but I've also lost like 2 kids along the way too.
So when you say, so how many do you have to have a certain number to be a team? Like how many kids do you need for a team?
Sure, yeah, it depends on the game title, and it just depends on the game play. So for example, the easiest one to talk about because it's the game that I play is Mario Kart. And so in a competition, it's 4v4, so 4 of our students versus 4 students from another school within that entire state of Michigan. And so when I say like I've recruited a team, like I've actively talked to 4 kids and I said, I think you'd be great at this. I know you play this on the side, and so I've collected them throughout the day. Additionally, what's great and isn't necessarily something that's like out there is that we have the ability to have alternates on these teams too. So that's what really helps the inclusivity of esports. Is we can have, you know, your competitive team of 4, but like we can have a 5th person on your team, and you can still practice collectively, even if you're maybe shy of competing right now, and kind of build up their confidence to get to a competitive level.
Okay, so will this look like, and you might not know this, so this is okay, because I don't play these, I mean this, I don't, but so I'm fascinated and I want to come. So you have like a match, I don't even know what you call it, whatever it is, and you have your 4 kids doing Mario Kart. Are they here in Williamston with the little headset playing someone in like Novi?
Yeah.
So they're here.
Yeah, that's a very good question. That was something that even, you know, 2 weeks ago I didn't know the answer to, but now I do. So we have what Paige referred to as our esports hub, and that is one of our classrooms at the high school, and it has set up with what we would consider to be stations. So these kids can come in, they go to a station, which has our Nintendo Switch, which is the gaming system that they're working off of. And for example, Mario Kart, you've got your 4 kids and you are huddled around this one monitor with your system. And then with the Switch and other systems as well, you can log in and connect with another school, again, throughout the entire state of Michigan. Now, the communication aspect of it, I think is pretty limited from what I've heard from other coaches I've networked with. Students don't really talk to each other during competitions. More so what happens is the coaches will log in through the Play Versus platform and will communicate with each other in the event that there's like network failure and we want to restart before like what they call like game of record time or, you know, things like that.
So I guess that's really great because the only time that they actually travel is for the spring competition, April 29th at Western University.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
otherwise
Yeah,
they will
so-
be here.
So they'll be here.
Something else that's just, I think, unique and really awesome is that these competitions are required to be played what I would consider in-house. And so we really are building this community of gamers together, and so we can, you know, have this esports hub, and these kids can help to make it their own place where they feel comfortable and welcomed, you know, and we can have that, what do you call it, the spirit of cooperative competition, right? Like, yes, we are here and we're like competing against you, but we're also here to like help each other, you know, make sure that our systems are working correctly and we're learning skills from each other to make this an even more competitive sport in the long run.
So can people come and watch this? Like, or not yet?
I mean, theoretically, yes. I mean, it's classrooms, right? So how many people can actually fit in there and you're huddled around? It's not like we're playing on this, right? So you got a computer to monitor screen, so what you're able to see. But eventually, barring some, you know, looking at some policies and stuff, there's ability to stream it on different platforms so that you could watch it from somewhere. Then that is certainly something, because obviously as a parent, if you want to see your child compete, certainly that would be the best option, and figuring that out of what the best streaming platform to do that with based upon our school policies would be. But I mean, theoretically, yes, you could come in and watch. It just might be a
Or
tough
you could
seat.
just be there?
Yeah, you just kind of be there to maybe get a glimpse of what's happening on the computer screen.
So I understand that this is just a pilot, and we're going to see how it goes for January through April. But do they do competitions in the fall as well? So there is a possibility that if this goes well, that it could also be in the fall and in the spring type of situation, or?
Yes, there's a fall
Yeah.
and spring season, correct? And so we fully intend to move forward with this in the fall in one
Got it.
capacity. Just obviously, again, by the interest that we have, we have 2 seasons, fall and spring.
Okay.
You mentioned that there is a classroom that's been assigned. Where in the high school is that?
D, C5.
C5.
I'm pretty bored of my classroom.
That's okay.
Not
And
walking in there
then
much.
you have 4 stations. If all 4 stations are running at the same time, do we have any issues on bandwidth side for if they are competing against others in our system in bandwidth within the district?
I have no idea. That would be
I can
something
kind of
James would
very,
probably be able to
very
figure out.
lightly speak to that. I've been I've been working really closely with the tech department. So Z, who is here, and then James Doyen. You know, Play Versus does a great job of saying, here's the minimum requirements that your system, your setup has to have to make sure that this is working effectively. And I think our IT department said, okay, we see that, and we're gonna like take it up a step and make sure that we're like really doing this well.
Good.
So I know Z just gave me the update tonight that said we got our network worked out with the ISD, and we're ready for kids to come in tomorrow, and they can bring their own systems and hook up to internet, hardwire it. We're gonna have, not flawless, but you know, as best internet as we possibly can be provided, and we're gonna be test running it all this week. So part of that is the kids just coming in and logging in, you know, and can they connect their own systems? And then later this week, we're, fingers crossed, gonna have some scrimmages with other schools from again around the state and make sure that we can connect with them. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like our tech department's been super busy. Very exciting. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I'm glad to hear you say you're doing something in the fall, because I heard several students say that it just didn't fit in their spring plan. You know, it was kind of sudden. So that's awesome.
Yeah, something for us too,
Opportunity.
but, right, figure it out this way, and again, I certainly think it's just gonna continue to grow as we push for it, and then again, push it at the middle school level as well.
Any other questions?
So you'll see this come back to you, provided the pilot is successful for future discussion and potential adoption as a varsity sport. But we'll see how this pilot goes, and really appreciative to Teresa and Paige, Steve for their support, Delvin in the high school, and then the tech department, as you heard, is really into this. So I think we're going to be in good shape, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Fun fact, I was a subpar Mario Kart player in college. I was back in the original PlayStation. Maybe I'm sure it's changed slightly since then, but maybe I'm looking forward to see how all this plays out.
Maybe
No
you
pun
should
intended.
Be an assistant
go,
coach.
yeah.
Right,
I
no,
don't
that
know
will
if
be
you want to do that. I played Super Smash one round with a kid last week, and I just got destroyed. I thought I was okay too, but.
But maybe they could work, like maybe you could like work with them and.
Yeah, that's all
challenge
right. I
them.
mean, I don't understand anything that the kids on the robotics team do either, but I love watching it. So I think this will be the same.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Thank you.
It sounds very exciting, so thank you very much for everything you've done and reaching out to another group of kids to give them opportunities. I think that's great.
Absolutely.
Amazing. I would like to come just observe. I don't want to play because I'm not good at it. I just would I'm fascinated what this looks like. I'm envisioning like those chairs and like everybody really intense like I see on TV, so.
3:30 to 5, Monday through Thursday.
Seriously, wow. All right, I might stop by. Thank you very much. Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Next up, and please, I know we've had lots of presentations. Please do not feel offended if you would like to go home. You've all had very long days. You do not have to stay. I know Rebecca Olson's presentation is going to just be knock it out of the park if you'd like to, but it is not offended.
I need to go before the sports. The sports is the cool stuff, and here I am with the budget. Ugh. Okay.
Issues.
Go money.
Excellent. So thank you very much for taking some time through your meeting to listen to our Kids Corner and Little Hornet budget proposal today. I stood before you last year, right around the same time, to discuss the tuition rates for this current year. This current year's programming. At that time, we proposed a staggered tuition increase, so we raised the rates a little bit, and then said that we would come back this year after having a year of analysis of the program. So that's where I am today, to come back to give you the second part of our plan. And I just want to preface this with saying that anytime we look at budget, we really do have the three main goals. First and foremost, to be financially responsible to the district. Second, to keep our rates and programming as affordable to families as possible. And third, to pay our staff a competitive living wage. So those are the three main things that drive any of our proposals tonight. So, okay, just a little bit of historical context. In June of 2018, there was a tuition rate increase. It was before my tenure as the administrator here, so I was not able to find the exact numbers, but I'm guessing it was about a 2% tuition rate increase. In June of 2021, we adopted a 10% sibling discount. Several of our programs around our neighboring districts were offering that, and we thought that was a great thing for families to have. In August of 2021, we did do a staff wage increase, a universal wage across the board, about $1 for each employee. January of 2022, staff were awarded a bonus payment, and that was part of the assurances in the fall 2021 stabilization grant. That was to cover a lot of the additional incurred expectations that came across through COVID, a lot of the absences that staff weren't being paid for, so that was part of a bonus as part of that grant. Last year in April, we did increase the tuition rate for families 3.5%. As the first part of that staggered increase, we went on the lower end of what we had budgeted, using some stabilization grant funds to supplement any deficit, and I'll get to that in a little bit. August 22, we did another bonus payment to staff, and that was again part of a requirement through that grant. When we were awarded the grant, that was a condition that the grant had established. Here's some more recent ones. In January of 2023, the Michigan minimum wage was increased 2.5%. That did not affect any of our staff because our staff was over that increased rate, so that didn't affect us, but it is part of our conversation. In February of 2023, there was the potential increase of the Michigan minimum wage. That, you probably have seen it in the news, it was declined again or vetoed, and so that did not occur. There was supposed to be a significant jump. They found that they didn't have to make that jump from 1025 to 1303 is what was the proposed rate. So that's still kind of looming out there, but right now that is not. It was supposed to be implemented in February, and it is not. March 2023, we have to have this winter 2022, the stabilization grant funds that we got in the winter of 2022, that has to be expended by March of 2023. And then by July of 2023, all of our stabilization grant funds must be expended. So that's just our timeline that we are operating on. I'm sorry for anyone, this is really small numbers. It looked good on my computer screen and probably your screen. But we knew when we came through with the tuition rate increase last year of 3.5% that it was not going to cover the deficit of the budget for Kids Corner and Little Hornets. So we are supplementing that with any stabilization grant funds this year. So we went and did another market analysis of our programming of our surrounding districts to see where our rates do fall. And we are still in the middle of the road. So when you look at these rate comparisons, we did surrounding districts. Every program is a little bit different. Different hours that you supply programming for. For instance, You know, Williamston, our program opens at 6:45 and our school starts at 8:30 in the morning. So there's a 2-hour and 15-minute time frame. You might get a Grand Ledge that they open their program at 7 and their school starts at 8. So there's some different, just different nuances in there that affect the programming, but this is just a general thing, and you can see we're kind of right in the middle of the road. And please stop me at any time to ask questions. We did the same thing for Little Hornet Preschool. Little Hornet Preschool, and I didn't bring these numbers to you last year because it's really, really difficult to compare programming at the preschool level because everybody offers something a little bit different. Whether it's the time slot, whether it's what is Mason offers a 2-hour and 15-minute program where we offer a 3-hour half-day program. So there's a difference there. There may be differences in a lot of the programming. We'll do a childcare offering and a preschool only offering, and that's where you're going to get in kind of the DeWitt offers just for 2, 3, and 4 half-day programming, and they don't offer a full-day programming. Okemos Nursery School is not associated with the district, but it's a private organization. Little Leaps is a center here in Williamston, and that is one of their preschool programming. They offer that full-day programming. They don't offer any of the half-day positions. So we did the best we could with filling out that chart. The blank just means it probably isn't offered by that organization. So we tried to do, again, a market analysis for the summer programming, and everywhere you call, they don't have their rates out because they're doing the exact same thing I am and asking for everybody, what's your rate, what's your rate, what's your rate, trying to be comparable. So this is the 2 that we could find this year. So we did a comparison of I spoke a lot with Sarah just about what our costs are, our expenses this year, what revenue we were bringing in with that increase of tuition, what our anticipated revenue was going to be with different increases, 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, 7%, 8%. And we really balanced out on that 7%, which was going to be our target in our proposal today, to say this was going to be a comfortable spot in which we could operate fiscally responsible. So what you have highlighted there is you have our current rate of the year, the proposed new rate, and the change for the family per year. So the change will be per year for the Little Hornet Preschool portion. You've got your preschool portion, your summer camp portion, and your child care portion. So the child care portion, you've got your rate change per day, and also the rate per year. And the rate per year is if you did all of our programming before school, after school, 5 days a week. So we tried to put it at the maximum amount. We did have to do a little bit of a rate adjustment because we are charging much less for our morning rate than we were for our afternoon rate. And that had just been something that occurred over time. As the school started delaying school start time, we never changed our morning rate or adapted our morning rate. So our morning time frame went from about 1 hour and 15 minutes to almost 2 hours and 15 minutes, based on how much the school changed. So we did a little bit of equating to the morning and the afternoon time, and we came up with these proposed rates. At the bottom, we did increase our registration fee too, and there was a comparison of different registration fees that I had done across different programs as well. Questions on that, or should I continue? Okay. So based on that, the proposal is to bring forth a 7% increase for tuition for the upcoming year. Upon approval by the board, it will go into effect for the summer of 2023 programming and any programming for the 23-24 We're bringing it to you at this time, so that way we can use it for all of our marketing materials and our registration, so parents know exactly what they're getting, and there's no surprises when they register for programming. The second part of that proposal, or the memo that you received, was about a staff bonus, and that will come solely out of the 2022 Child Care Stabilization Grant that we received. We did not do a staff wage increase this year when we did that staggered tuition rate increase, and so we're using any of the stabilization grant funds that is there to give these staff bonuses. And so that's where the bonus came in. We used kind of the same structure that was one of the required structures for the previous stabilization grant. This is not a required one, but it does show an appreciation to our staff for their effort, and it does help to counteract all of the inflation that has happened this current year. So the bonus will be paid to each Kids Corner Little employee for staff retention and for the appreciation. So the final next step would be in June of 2023 is to establish what a KCLH wage schedule proposal should be. We don't have a set schedule on how frequently tuition goes up and how the staff wages go up. And so we want to make that align so that we're not coming back and having these huge big increases in tuition. We want to have a schedule that allows for very small increments that would equal a staff schedule. Sarah and I are working on that and continually to analyze our budget, see where we are with this proposal if it gets awarded, and see what our registration is looking like. So hopefully in June, when I come for my update, I would have any information if we want to add that to our handbooks. What kind of questions? Yes, please.
So if we did enact the minimum wage increase and it did go to 1303, then we might have to adjust some of our rates?
No, this, what we did was based our rates on that 1303 target. If we don't have to do that, then we have a little bit more wiggle room in our staff schedule, and we can start at that lower rate and have an increase year, and then we wouldn't have to increase tuition rates for a couple of years.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Thinking about, just because I know that you have GSRP spots and you have tuition spots, looking at just tuition, because we're looking at tuition increase. In an average year, do you have trouble filling those tuition spots?
No. No, our tuition spots really fill up very quickly, and in some classes more so than others. And we're always looking at how we can offer which classes based on the needs of families. Our full day class is constantly full, and actually our preschool half day classes are very, very sought after. So this year, we had a much harder time filling our GSRP slots, and I really worked diligently to offer them to any family and to follow up with families, and I am so pleased to say that we are fully filled and we are fully funded for our GSRP. Yes.
Yay. Congratulations.
And so, yes, count day is right around the corner.
That is amazing.
No,
Yes.
that really is.
That is
Yes, and
great.
so with that, I mean, just this is a little side topic, but with GSRP, we work so closely with the ISD. We were awarded, Williamston was awarded more over income slots because we know preschool is extremely expensive and the quality, and so the more families we can get in as GSRP eligible, we will. And so the ISD awarded Williamston some more over income slots, so we were able to help families who were just over that threshold but still were in need. So we still continue, I make my voice very strong at the ISD and areas to hopefully get more opportunities for GSRP.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Anything else? And I didn't mention this, both the esports and Kids Corner, esports, we're not doing anything with, it's pilots. We're not doing anything with esports. This, if we're all feeling comfortable, we can move this to our January 6th meeting. If you have
March 6th, March 6th, not
March
January
6th,
6th.
so did I say
Mar-
January?
yeah, we're not going back
March
in time.
6th, our next meeting. If you have any other questions though before now and then, I would get with Rebecca to get questions answered before we vote, if you're not comfortable. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
your Presentation. All right, next up, board policies. Dave, I guess I'll start with you. The three were, so I'm just gonna turn it over to you.
So we had some redundant policies that were combined, which would be the three that we moved there. Unless I'm missing anything, Adam. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to revise, plus a addition to the high school handbook that mainly centered around suspicious activity, e.g. multiple students in the same stall. Make sure that was in writing in the handbook.
So that went back to the high school handbook update from last May. It took a long time to get a legal opinion, like months, and then basically got the thing together at the end of October. So it was a long journey to get to the point of an answer you had been told you would get back in May. So there's your answer. It just took a while to get here. Yep.
We can only have one person in a stall.
It just had to do with legal nuances around what constitutes using the word suspicious activity. So I think that's all hashed out now. And so that, pending your approval, that would just get input into the high school handbook. So when you saw proposed revisions this May, that wouldn't be in there if you approve it prior to that.
Another notable item is administration of medication. Correct me if I'm wrong, the consensus was at the high school, we would be asking for notification from parents, there's a form to fill out, and everything else would go through the office at lower grade levels.
Yeah, I mean, the big piece on this one was, it really comes into the regs, but it's that non-prescription medication can be carried by high school students in small amounts per the wording in the proposed revision to the regs. But that the high school would have a form that has been put together that parents would fill out so that the office is aware of what those non-prescription medications should be. And so that provides some top cover for the building, understanding that parents are being asked to provide that information so we know what students are carrying. But also allows high school students a bit of age-appropriate autonomy to have some of those non-prescription medications on them, so they can use those as needed without having to go seek a medical professional or go to the office during the day.
I think I had for note policies to revise. The last one is 7080, which would be adding sexual education and communicable disease instruction. This is where we spent the majority of the time. This is we had a consultant there going over what we were required to do, what we have to pull together. Yes.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question just before we move on to that one? On the weapon-free school zone, this was revised. Can you tell me what was added? Like
Yeah,
what?
they added, we added more firearms components, so just those words.
Okay.
And that was based on a recommendation after a policy review, as we're bringing the detection dog into the building. The nonprofit that's supporting that had their team look at it and suggested that exemption.
Okay, that's
It's a
what-
small thing, but it just.
It is, because
covers
I
our
looked
bases.
back and could not figure out the difference.
And it really has to do with the fact that weapons components aren't allowed either, and the dog can find those. So we're just adding that, so that's clear.
Okay, find it on there. Okay, now unless anybody has any questions about the other ones, but we can move to the 780. 780. Just had that one.
All right.
Sorry.
So this is one where we are required to teach HIV/AIDS, and then we have to decide how we want to proceed with more fully developed sex education. And as a part of that, we need to assemble a board. It's the
Sex Ed Advisory Board.
Sex Ed Advisory Board, thank you. And we threw some parameters around the assembly of that board, some of which are required by the state. Makeup has to be 50% parents, and a few other line items around there. We also added that we're looking for 3/4 majority, where once they've agreed upon something, before they bring it back to us, they have to have 75% approval of it. And we're recommending the chairpersons have a 4-year term, and then everybody else would be on a 3-year term, so that the chairpersons would roll over as other people would be replaced.
So can I ask, so it says the Sex Education Advisory Board will have 2 co-chairs appointed by the board. So are we like looking at staff? Like how, are we literally gonna like get applications and then pick
Yes.
2 people, or is this, yes? That's what
Yes,
we're gonna do?
it's basically out of the group, I think, that are wanting to be on the advisory board, and we
Yes.
appoint 2 of those.
So
to
it
be
wouldn't
chairs.
necessarily be, like it could be a parent, it wouldn't necessarily be an employee?
One has to be a parent. I don't, it's all very scripted in terms of who has to be what. I know one
Yeah.
of the
There
coaches
has to be
a
parents, students, educators, a local clergy, and community health
So one of
professionals.
the co-chairs must
But
be
I
a
mean, the
parent.
co-chairs.
One of them has to be a parent.
Yes.
So one has to be a parent, and then the other, are we,
I think the other would
It's
be
up
up
at
to
the
the
rest of
board's
the-
discretion based
Oh, so-
on the rest of the applicants.
Was there any consideration on staggering those on the co-chairs so that there's continuity in regards to history and understanding of what's come in the past?
We just talked about staggering the members and not the members, staggering it so that it's not a complete turnover, so that it's not everybody goes, including the chairs, but we can always talk about that.
I mean, just like we see here. I mean, you don't
Yeah.
want to have a large
Yeah,
amount.
and that was communicated so that it's not the chairs go along with the members. That way,
Yeah.
the way that we have it now is that the chairs will be there for at least 1 more year. Of course, it could be that one steps down, or both
Yeah.
step down, so it could be that situation, but the way to look at this is that the board will look over the applicants and decide who's on here. The committee makes a recommendation to the board, and the board has the ultimate decision-making ability, whether to accept, just like we do with anything that comes to the board from any administrator, whether we approve or not approve. So I think that that is something that to keep in mind with this moving forward, is that the board is always the ultimate decision maker with anything. But that's something to consider.
So
That's a
can
good
a board
point.
member serve?
I'm sorry?
Can
No.
a board member serve on the,
I would
No.
think not.
No.
Because they're bringing things to us.
I wouldn't think so either, but I didn't see the specific.
Yeah.
so could this be a situation where we don't have a staff member? Like, would you be part of this committee? I mean, could there be a scenario where
We'd have a staff member. I mean, we have a sex ed, I never remember the right name of the term. It's a supervisor, like a program supervisor. So we have a person that currently is in that position. That person would most likely be on the committee.
on the committee, so would that person be outside of the 14 members or 9 to 14 members we would need, it would be part of that?
That's up to the board.
That's up to the board, okay.
I think it would be part of, we really broke down the numbers, and it was almost like a guaranteed 9 without anybody from the school. That's just parents, clergy, the students, what it requires. Now, you can have as many over and above as you want. Like, Okemos has 28 people on their advisory board, so you can have it as large as you want, or you can scale it down to just what the law requires you to have on
And
it.
what the law requires is 9.
They
Well, by the time you
require
add up everything.
By rule, if people
Yeah.
could serve multiple roles, we had a local pastor that also had children in the district, that'd be 2 roles.
Okay.
They don't have a specific, the state doesn't have a specific number. They just have specific.
But we crunched numbers and 9
Yeah.
was about the smallest group we could come up with, basically.
Right.
So what happens if you cannot fill one of those categories? If you have tapped out every clergy member in the community and they all say no?
You gotta keep
Keep
trying.
asking.
Okay.
You don't have a
Because
board.
you can't have, the committee can't serve if all the areas are not filled?
Correct.
Okay.
So so I feel like we kind of need to take this in 2 parts a little bit. First, and I guess, please jump in if I'm wrong, like looking at the policy itself and then what our next steps are.
Correct.
Are we required, do we, like, and I guess these 2 things are in my head.
I can summarize this. The policy you're looking at doesn't change anything from what we're already doing.
Okay.
Exact same everything. If anything were to change, or be proposed to be changed, the advisory board has that conversation, brings it back to the board. So your big pieces here are affirming what's been done and continues to be done, and then just ensuring that you have defined the advisory board to look the way you would like it to look, and the process for how those folks are brought onto the board.
Okay, so first, are there any questions just about this policy and how this reads right now? Okay, so then this,
Wait,
go ahead.
so the members, that's all based on the state requirement, and that's
Correct.
the way, and we don't have, this doesn't exist right now?
It needs to exist in order to continue with the current policy that
Like,
we've
was
had.
that not part of the policy before, and now it is?
We never had a policy.
No, I mean, if-
We
had
have
an
a policy,
internal.
but it's not as defined as it needs to be.
And we
It's
did have an
very-
advisory board.
Yeah, we have.
I mean,
We've had
I
advisory
sat on
boards.
it when I was a parent and a teacher, but, so just kind of, I think.
So it's not required that you have an advisory board, but if you have one, it has to have these components?
It's required if we're going to continue with our current system that we've had. So basically,
Okay.
if you're going to teach sex education, which Williamston has as far back as I can remember, you got to have a sex ed advisory board. And the board will be the one that will look at, they'll have conversations about things. They might review the materials that are already in place and say, hey, this video that was made in 1973 probably could get updated, so they'll look at options and then, talk about if that looks like a viable option. And, if they can get 3/4 of the folks to think that's a good option, they'll bring it to the board and they'll say, hey, what do you think? And then the board will decide. So it's really just about being standardized and legally compliant with the processes, making sure that we've checked all the boxes.
Thank you.
And I will add that we did make it a 4-year term because, they said it is a long process. She said she was working with one school district and they're almost 2 years into it and they haven't even looked at a curriculum. Like it took that long just to set up the policy, get the advisory board in place, get them to have regular meetings, and she's like, so now they could be aging off. That's why we did the 4-year term to kind of so that they wouldn't age off before they were able to get it established.
One of the requirements is a student, so that will
Yeah.
change pretty rapidly.
So I look at it, and I guess, again, policy committee, let me know. So either we can appoint people to this committee, we can just go around and say, like, will you sit on this committee? Yes, great, check. Will you sit on this committee? No, okay, move on. Or we ask for applications for the committee?
It's okay, but.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like I'm trying to figure out what.
The policy's written in that superintendent designee would form a standardized application process, so that would be communicated out to stakeholders of the community. They would apply, and then you'd have your candidate pool to select.
So I guess what I'm getting at, maybe I should just shoot right there. Do we need to put together a, ad hoc committee to go, I'm thinking we're gonna get hundreds of applications. We might not get any, but do we, once you do this process and we find out how many applications, would it be better then to look at what the next steps are, or putting an ad hoc committee to go over those applications, or what would you like from us right now? Should we just sit tight to get the application going?
I think
I
we
think
just.
you could talk about it once we have all that put together.
I think we just need to approve the policy first.
Christina kind of implied that you're not gonna get applications. And you might actually be going.
She's like,
out
we have
asking
schools that are
people
sitting.
Yeah, looking for people.
So do we have to do an application process, or could we just ask people?
The policy is written as such that there's an application process. I think that's important too, so that
Everybody
the
has a
board can
chance.
see something about the folks who are applying. And, we don't know everybody, so there might be like people that would be really beneficial and do a great job. It gives them an opportunity to articulate that in their application.
Okay.
So, I also, because I mentioned this in the policy committee, there's really nothing that we're looking at like doing right now. So I think that could also be another factor that might, I don't know if it'll be good or bad for folks that are interested, but like there's not like a thing that's on the
There's
front
nothing.
burner right now. No, so like you could be on it, that's great, we might meet, and as Julie alluded to, like your first couple of years could be just reviewing what we already have. It's not like there's a big initiative right now. It's
But-
just right now about
yeah.
making sure that we're organizationally sound in terms of processes around this topic.
But to your question, Nancy, I think the first thing is to get something on the books to include this, a policy on the books to include this, and then the step after that is to start to the process of forming that committee.
Okay, so first step, approving this, and then Adam
That would be my
follow us
And,
along.
and
for
we
the
did,
next
I mean,
question.
some of the things that we added was the 75% vote, because we thought she did not think a majority alone is something good to go at or give your board. So that is still up. I mean, you could go higher with that. She wouldn't recommend going lower, but you do want compromise on your board. You want them to be able to look and have agreement and compromise before they bring it to us to review. So, and the numbers. So, I mean, if you guys decided that you think more than 14, that was kind of what but those were the kind of, that red was the area of discussion, like the number of members, what percentage, everything else was pretty much provided by Troon, and you just had to pick whether or not you wanted to continue to offer sex ed, put together an advisory board, or not, don't put together. So we obviously decided to stay.
So, I mean, what are, I guess, thoughts, Chris, Amanda? I'm comfortable with this, like,
Yeah.
I think you guys did a really nice job. I know this was not an easy topic and a long topic to get everything going, but it does make sense, like whittling it down 9 to 14 seems reasonable for our school size, and the 75% agreement for vote and all of that, but what are you two thinking?
I'm fine.
You good? Anything else you guys want to add about this?
I just have to say that Christina Holmes, was very informative and a great resource for our discussion and answering
Very much so.
all of our questions. So moving forward, if we need anything, I think that she would be more than happy to help us.
Nice. All right. Are there any other questions about any of these policies? So then let's move them for a vote for our March meeting. If you do have any questions, please get with Adam before that meeting, or a policy number, if it's a policy question. Adam, is there any, I guess I didn't ask you, is there anything you want to add about these?
No, I mean, they're pretty straightforward, in my opinion at least, so we're good.
All right, next up, can I have a motion to approve our consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, first by Chris, second by Sarah. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We do not have any roll call vote. We do have some separate action items for our probationary teachers.
I make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the following advances in teacher probationary status: Megan Carr, Barbara Zermensky, Megan Allen, Madeline Stewart, Molly Stump, and Carrie
Reservoir.
Thank you, Adam.
Second?
Okay, so first by Sarah, second by Chris. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Can I please have a motion for our approve of a leave request?
Make a motion that the Williamston Board of Education approve the leave request for Joel Marvin and Peggy Weiss.
Second.
Okay, so first by Chris, second by Dave. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Next, we do have our board goals there. We do have some correspondence that are in your packet. I know it's this time of year and we have, we're gonna start getting some retirement letters. And every time we get these, it just hurts a little bit more. Bob Duffy, I don't even know how long he's worked here, but I know he's coached here, he's taught
38
here.
38 years, I think you said?
30. His family's here, has been here. This is a man who would, stay after school or come, meet a student at 6:30 in the morning. And I literally know this happened like 3 to 4 days a week for several months before that kid took his ACT because he really wanted to do well in the English section of the ACT, and he needed his help. And Bob was there every step of the way doing that. And it was just a lot of selfless acts on his part. So he will be greatly missed. Same with Sue Clark, been a longtime para in our district. She's taken on some pretty tough challenges and just laughs through the whole thing. So she will be greatly missed with those students and the relationship she's built. Same with Ann McKinney. So as happy as I am for all of these individuals who get to move on to the next chapter of their life and enjoy their families and whatever's next for them, it stings a little bit and hurts. So I do wish them the very best. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I think they're all, all incredible educators and leaders. Bob Duffy is ironically also the Educator of the Year, and so quick plug for the awards banquet on the 23rd of February, where we'll have an opportunity to honor him. Told him he's going out on top, right? So Educator of the Year at the top-rated high school for the last 4 years. So he's kind of riding out at the top of the group there. But Bob, for a lot of administrators, I will say, has been a person that we've turned to for advice, guidance, and also, of course, had a lot of contributions to the district as a coach and his mentorship to students, as you mentioned. Sue Clark's been an incredible advocate and leader for students with disabilities, represented the Paraprofessional Association for many years, has been a wonderful partner to work with, has been very fair in looking out for her members and also looking out for the benefits of the student in the district. And someone that I used to work with when I was a teacher at the middle school, and have the highest regard for her. And then, Ann was very influential. I was telling her a joke. My first experience ever as an administrator was working as like the backup principal when the other 2 administrators at the middle school were gone. Like the first 3 days I had ever done that, the police came like every day for something. And so I spent a lot of time in Ann's office, like, what do I do? What do I do? The police are here, So she was able to walk me through all those things, and it was a valuable mentor. And, the types of issues that our counselors work with have become very intensive over the years. And some of the students, the needs of students has grown, and Ann has handled all those with grace and compassion, and has really made an amazing difference in the lives of so many kids. So, yeah, all these are tough for me too, because like when I started working here, like these are the folks you look up to, much like a lot of the folks that retired over the last few years, and it'll be impossible to replace. But we wish them the best of luck in their next chapter.
Yeah, I just want to say something about Mr. Duffy. I had him in 11th grade English, and my husband Andrew did as well. And when you become an educator yourself, you look back at the teachers that you had, and he did have a profound impact on me becoming an educator. And I vividly remember being in his class, and he would put up the newspaper clippings up on his walls and of his students, and And I also remember at the time LeBron James up on him because he was, you know, this high school superstar at the time, going to go into the NBA. And you just remember these things that, you know, you take with you. And of course the lessons that teachers teach you. And he definitely, again, I will take with me. And I do wish him all the best. And every time I see him, he always obviously says hello, and so we just wish him all the best. And we're losing, I don't want to say losing, but he's been such a great educator, and will be hard to replace, obviously, but we wish him all the best.
Yes. Okay, next, citizen comment. Do we have any citizen comments? Okay. Board reports and requests.
Two things. The evening of jazz for the band is coming up. It always sneaks up on us, I feel. It's coming up Friday, March 10th at 7 p.m. In the past, the board has donated a silent auction item. Wasn't sure if the board intended on doing that again this year, so if it's something that we wanted to put together, let Nancy and I know, or however we want to arrange that. Also, Thursday, May 4th, the PTSA at the elementary school is putting on the ice cream social. It's back after a 3-year hiatus after COVID. So again, I didn't know if we wanted to, in the past we've managed a game, or at the very least have done a silent auction, a basket. So just putting it out there. We have some time with that one, but the evening of jazz is coming up sooner.
Yeah, so I guess the first question is do you want to donate something to the evening of jazz again?
I didn't want it to be a discussion because I didn't know if
Correct, but
you totally could overrule me on that because you're the
well, I just think we have participated in these things before, so I think it would be nice to do that. It might just be easier to, if you'd like to donate to that, I can send out an email and we can like donate to that and donate to the evening of jazz, and we can,
yeah.
do you
The
wanna-
evening of jazz, yeah, I can put something together if we get donations. They usually do a online auction
They do.
for the evening of jazz, and then for the PTSA they have a in-person.
auction.
Yeah.
So if you want to contribute something,
I should say, correction, sorry. The evening of jazz, they do an online auction as well as an in-person opportunity to bid, so.
so we can, so I would suggest, like just sending a donation to Sarah for one, both, whatever, indicate what you're doing, and then we can just put something together and give that to them. I can reach out to the ice cream social. In the past, we've done, like the booth, it's not a booth, like the game.
Yeah, there are 2 games available,
Oh, 2, only 2?
not basketball, sorry to say.
Dave,
Basketball,
we have like
there's a
serious-
ring toss
Wheel
available,
of
or,
prizes and barrel toss.
yeah.
What are they?
Wheel of prizes and barrel toss.
What is the wheel of prizes? I don't
Where
know.
every kid will want to be.
They spin the
The wheel
wheel.
of prizes.
Not. The only kids want to be at the basketball.
Games go fast.
Come on, Dave. Like we have like a line right there. Okay, so we need to pick up a game.
Yeah,
We should pick up a game. We've done that before.
yeah.
I guess, I don't know either one of those, so if we can just choose one.
We'll coordinate after.
Okay, so, but, that's May 4th, to do that. So, again,
That's
donation.
a Thursday. Evening of
Um,
jazz is a Friday.
A Friday. If we send our donation to Sarah, get that to Sarah, and then we can figure out what we do, and I can get the prizes for the evening of jazz.
Oh,
Or
and
not the evening of jazz, the
yeah.
other.
And the last thing, Be Nice basketball game next Friday. Or this Friday, excuse me.
Yeah, it's a good
This
catch.
Friday.
I should have mentioned that, yeah. Well, that's the Williamston Hazlet game, so it's a
Yep.
big one, and yeah, it'd be nice mental health awareness. Yeah, thank you, Sarah. We'll have an email reminder, I think, going out to everybody Wednesday afternoon.
Anything else? All right, so I will look for a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
First, Chris, do I have a second? Second by Dave, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?